Free people around the world raised their voice against the Israeli occupation aggression on the Palestinian occupied territory, killing children and women. People in different international capitals took to the streets and said Israel must stop its aggression against the Palestinian people, Israel must end its occupation, and Palestine must be free. To understand the context of these protests and the support for the Palestinian struggle for freedom and independence, I have with me from New York via Skype, engineer, Palestinian American activist, Maher Abdelqader. Welcome to our program, Mr. Maher.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Wa alaikum assalam. Mr. Maher, hundreds of thousands of people participated in demonstrations in support of the Palestinian people against the Israeli aggression on Gaza, Jerusalem, the West Bank, Palestine occupied in 1948. In what context do you understand these demonstrations and this public support for the Palestinian cause?
Before I start, I would like to just congratulate our Palestinian people worldwide for their unity and for standing up together and as one, and for the first time ever against the inhumane aggression by apartheid state of Israel, attacking the very existence of Palestinians in historic Palestine, specifically in Sheikh Jarrah, Al-Quds, Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine, Gaza, and areas occupied since 1948. History is changing worldwide. Palestinians are getting more support, solidarity, and understanding for their just cause or plight. Yes, you're right. Responding to the question, things are changing in the United States and changing in favor of the Palestinian people. After American witnessed the aggressiveness of the settler movement against the Palestinian in Jerusalem, trying to cleanse them out of their homes. All right, people for the first time saw it via social media, and when we start in social media in the United States of America, advertising and showing the clips of movies and the clips of videos coming from Al-Quds and Sheikh Jarrah, we start calling for demonstration in the United States. And within a week, the United States, for the first time ever, had 358 demonstrations where thousands and thousands took to the streets, and they were repeating, that Israel is an apartheid state. It's the aggressor, and they are treating the Palestinian in an inhumane manner, and they should stop. So social media, for the first time, overpowered regular TV, regular radio station in the United States, and made a big difference. So to answer your question, yes, things are changing in the United States, and thanks to our the loyalty of our community and supporters of our community in the United States, that they worked around the clock to show the just cause of Palestine and Palestinians.
Yes, Mr. Maher, you're talking about a significant difference, okay? Now, how can the Palestinian community in the United States and in the Western countries in general build on this change, develop it, and affect the foreign policy of the different governments when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian question? Do you have, for example, as an activist in the Palestinian community in the United States, do you have a plan, do you have an agenda in order to keep this process going on?
Yes, we do. And our community in the United States has been very active in their small little programs for many years, and their activities has been growing. But I think we hit a pinch mark, milestone 4 years ago, when the Palestinian supported a few candidates to Congress, namely Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and most importantly, Ocasio-Cortez from the
Yeah.
Bronx, New York, of a Hispanic background. Supporting those three people and making sure that they go to Congress, they became reiterating and stating a few verbiage which was forbidden in the United States Congress, such as human rights, such as Palestine, such as Palestinian, such as, the just cause of Palestine. Israel is using aggressive force against, human beings. And, I remember at one point or another, back in 1988, when the Democratic Party had its convention, they over there, mentioned the word of Palestine sovereignty at their platform. And everybody in the party was saying the use of P word is even, going to create hell, and things will break loose. Now, that was in 1988.
Yeah.
Now, we see that the the Democratic Party right now has at least 14 congressmen and women that they are talking about, segregating themselves from the main Democratic Party, and they refer to as the progressive movement within the Democratic Party, and they are saying enough is enough. The Palestinian people have been suffering as a result of apartheid, discriminatory policies of the Israeli regime and authority, and it has to stop, and we have to look the other side and try to support the just cause of Palestinian people. So things have been changing, and lately, in the United States, we have formed a body that meets regularly, where we go and collect money and donation to support those candidates that they support the cause of Palestine. So things are changing. We are getting educated, and our community is getting more involved, and we are getting involved with American and solidarity movement within the United States, trying to educate them and make them more vocal. Before, if you support Palestine, they accuse you of everything. Right now, it is not. We are really, facing the Zionist movement in the United States, and we are challenging them in the streets, in the media, social media, and things like that. Yes, they control the main media like the CNN and Fox News, etc., etc. But people are less and less relying and listening to the main media, and relying on clips and videos from the social media, because they are instant, number one. Number two, reflect things on the ground. So things are moving in the right direction, and we are encouraging everybody to be involved and support our cause in the United States by supporting candidates that they go to the United States, and those people, they could make a difference. One small story about Ocasio-Cortez. She had indicated on the floor of the U.S. Congress that the human rights of Palestinians are being violated.
Yeah.
And she sent a strong message to the Biden administration. You must stop this. And we saw that her voice was heard in the White House, and later on, 150 other activists, key activists, plus Congress people, sided with her, and they have issued a statement that, violence in the Middle East is caused by apartheid Israel, and for the first time, they are using the word apartheid, describing the Israeli authorities, and it has to stop.
Yes, of course, here the term apartheid is applicable now, because if you go to Jerusalem and mainly to Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, you see the Israeli checkpoints within the neighborhood, allowing Jewish people to get and exit anytime they want, while the Palestinians are deprived of their right to get into this neighborhood, the citizens of which are threatened of expulsion. And now the Israeli colonizers and Israeli extremists, Mr. Maher, are threatening that they are going to storm the Al-Aqsa Mosque this Thursday. And this might escalate the situation again and take the region once again back to violence. Now, if this happens, Mr. Maher, do you think that the people in the United States and the activists, the supporters of the Palestinian cause, are going to have the same momentum and organize demonstrations and call for stopping the Israeli aggression? Do you think that?
Yes. You know, Palestinians in the United States and supporters of Palestine are growing and growing steadily. Number one, the community is planning a major demonstrations in the coming weeks, whether things develop in them in Jerusalem and Sheikh Jarrah and Al-Aqsa or not. It's coming in a week or 2 weeks, number one. But I think we had shown the whole world that our community response is immediate to development in the occupied Palestine. Our community is no longer accepting to be silent, and our community is not accepting that the United States of America and Congress be silent. We are getting engaged, we are getting involved, and we are pushing for certain action by the State Department, by Congress, to be fair and reasonable and put an end to occupation. The whole cause in the Middle East is the brutal occupation of the Israeli movement. We all know that our story is not being told to American, and because of social media, the story has been told slowly but surely. Now, we all know that the Zionist political movement was created in Europe to establish a refuge for Jews away from the Holocaust and harassment of European countries against the Jewish people. And we know that America, since the establishment of the State of Israel up to now, they are 100% supportive of Israel. But we recognize one thing, that just neglecting and ignoring being involved in American politics is not the answer. Being engaged, being involved, being out there, being in the streets, responding to newscasts, news articles, statement by Zionist organization. All of these things make the story of the Palestinian present in American homes, in American minds, and American people.
Yeah, Maher, and this leads me to my final question to you, Mr. Maher. In order to promote this kind of engagement and this political participation, if we can call it, networking with other communities in the United States, not only the Palestinian Arab Muslim community and other movements like Black Lives Matter movement, for example. Don't you think that this would be helpful and would make the Palestinian cause more visible to the American society as a way to press the American administration to change its policy when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian question?
I think this is the core of the things. Cori Bush, a congresswoman, stated in the floor of Congress that we will not settle unless kids in Ferguson, where it's a black community, and in Palestine be safe and treated in a humane fashion. And as Black Lives Matters, Palestinian lives matters too. So this is a statement that was stated by Cori Bush, who's a congresswoman, in the floor of the U.S. Congress. I agree with you. We need to show the plight of Palestinian people to Americans. The American people are ignorant about the cause of Palestine. They are ignorant about the suffering and the pain caused by apartheid Israel policies and procedures. So we need to get our community engaged and in events, conferences, funding sources, cultural production, all means at all times, so they can challenge, the Israeli media. They can challenge the evangelists, which is the Christian Zionists in the United States of America, because we have a just cause. The only thing is we need to tell the story. So I agree with you. The African American have made the headlines in the United States with Black Lives Matters, and the way they did it, we are engaging with them, engaging with other also minority like the Hispanic and other communities, to ensure that they are educated about the cause of Palestine and they are supportive of our cause.
Yeah, Maher Abdelqader, Palestinian American activist. It was a great honor to join our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I applaud you for all of your efforts, promoting the Palestinian cause internationally. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Maher. And thank you very much for watching. And from me, Osama Nazal. Goodbye.